Okay, get this. A divine command, a super difficult audience, and a murder mystery. And the only way to solve it? A cow. This is the story of Al-Baqarah, one of the most memorable and instructive tales in the Quran. And we're about to unpack why it's so much more than just a strange instruction.
So you're probably wondering, how on earth do a cow, a murder, and a divine message all connect? Well, that's the central puzzle we're going to piece together today. It all starts with the children of Israel, their prophet Moses, and a command that seems to come completely out of left field. All right, put yourself in their shoes for a second. Your community is just, going about its day, and then your leader, the prophet Moses, shows up with a message straight from God. You're thinking, okay, this is going to be huge, right? Epic. And then he tells you it's about a cow.
That's it. That's the whole command. Super simple, direct, no ifs, ands, or buts. No context, just slaughter a cow. Now you'd think the normal response would be, all right, let's go find a cow. But oh no, that is not what happened. Not even close.
So instead of just getting on with it, what does Moses get? He gets suspicion, he gets a whole bunch of questions. And this is exactly where a really simple task starts to spiral into this huge, complicated mess, all because the people decided to argue instead of just act.
I mean, think about this. Their very first reaction isn't even, huh? A cow? Why? Nope, it was pure suspicion. They looked right at their prophet and basically said, are you joking? Are you making fun of us? They just couldn't imagine any wisdom behind it, so they figured it had to be a joke. And Moses, he shuts that down immediately. His reply is sharp, it's serious, he's making it crystal clear. This is not a joke. Joking about a divine command? That's what an ignorant person would do. And he is a prophet of God. The message is real, the order stands. Okay, so point taken, it's not a joke. Now they're just obey, right? Wrong again. Instead of just finding any cow, which was the original simple command, they start demanding details. This is where they take this simple, straight path and twist it into this ridiculously complicated maze all on their own. And here's the crazy part. With every single question they asked, God gave them an answer. But with every answer, the list of requirements for this cow just got longer and more specific. They were boxing themselves in, narrowing their options from literally any cow on the planet down to one super specific, very rare animal. It's like they were building their own prison of details. First, they ask about its age. The answer comes back. Not too old, not too young, middle-aged. Simple enough, right? Nope. So they ask, what about its color? The answer, it has to be this brilliant, intense yellow that's beautiful to look at. You'd think they'd stop there, but no. With every question, a new rule gets added. Oh, and it can't be a working animal, one that plows fields or anything. And one more thing, it has to be absolutely perfect, flawless, not a single blemish, one solid color. They literally questioned their way into a corner where finding this cow would be next to impossible. And this is the absolute best part. The irony is just incredible. After demanding all these details and making the whole thing 100 times harder, they turn around and say, this whole thing has gotten really confusing for us. They made it confusing. And only then, at the very, very end of all their arguing, do they finally tack on, and if Allah wills, we will be guided.
So somehow they actually find this 1 in a million cow. They probably paid a fortune for it. And they're all set to finally fulfill the command. But the biggest question of all still hasn't been answered. And this is where the whole story just flips on its head, because this was never really about a cow.
Which brings us to the question that's been hanging over this whole story, right? Why? Why all this complication? Why a cow with these super exact features? The story has so cleverly given us the what and the how, but it's been holding back the why. And let me tell you, the reveal is just brilliant. And then, boom, the real reason drops. It hits you. This story isn't about a cow. It never was. It's about an unsolved murder. See, someone in their community had been killed, and nobody was taking responsibility. Instead, they were all pointing fingers at each other, causing total chaos and division. And God was about to pull back the curtain and show them the truth they were all trying to hide. And that's where the cow comes in. It was the key. The actual divine plan was to take a piece of this slaughtered animal and strike the dead man's body with it. Yeah, you heard that right. This one single act was designed to trigger a miracle that would point directly to the murderer and shut down all the arguments for good. So after all that back and forth, all the questioning, all the complaining, they finally did it.
They followed the final instruction. They took a piece of the cow and struck the victim with it. And in that moment, the impossible happened. The dead man came back to life. Just for a second. Just long enough to point out his killer, and then he died again. Just like that. Mystery solved.
Now, this incredible event, this miracle, it was way more than just a really creative way to solve a crime. It was a massive sign, a profound lesson for them back then, and honestly, for all of us today.
And here it is, the ultimate point of the whole story. The miracle wasn't just about earthly justice. It was a huge, undeniable demonstration of God's absolute power. The message was clear. If God can bring one man back to life for a moment to solve a murder, then bring all of humanity back to life for the day of judgment, that's simple. It was a sign meant to wake them up, to make them use their reason and really truly deepen their faith.
Okay, so let's break down the takeaways here. You have a command that was super simple, but it was made incredibly difficult by all the arguing and questioning. The story itself is told like a fantastic mystery, right? It saves the big reveal for the very end. And that reveal shows us the miracle had two jobs. One, to solve a crime, and two, to prove God's ultimate power. And what it all really boils down to is this powerful lesson about faith versus needless argumentation.
So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. What's the main message here? Is it the jaw-dropping miracle that proves God's power over life and death? Or is it a cautionary tale? A warning about how our own arguments, our own hesitation, can turn the simplest acts of faith into the most difficult challenges. You know, maybe the real genius of the story is that it's powerfully and inseparably both.